Don't be shy.
Choice, boys, isn't it? Yeah.
Don't be shy. Don't be shy, Scott.
Well, you're on,
This
mate.
is part of This is part of it. You know, we want to embrace. We want to.
Mate, is that goalkeeper's top, by the way?
I think this is 2007.
Yeah, mate. It looks like Petr Cech.
Yeah,
Hilario.
it looks
Yeah,
like
it's a
Cech.
goalkeeper top,
I
isn't
say
it?
Hilario.
Yes, for one
Yeah,
game.
it's Hilario,
Mate,
mate.
isn't it sad? Hilario's gone now.
I don't care.
I don't really blame him, to be honest.
He's been in the club for like 20 years.
Man, I'm not surprised working with Robert Sanchez wants to fuck us off.
Oh, I mean, listen, guys, let's get straight into it. We're going to be reviewing the Leicester game, and we'll talk about anything else that's relevant as well. But I mean, let's just go through. I mean, Benny, good to see you, mate. We've got Charlie here as well.
good to see you,
Scott
boys.
on my left. Benny, what did you think of the game yesterday? Obviously, we got the 3 points against Leicester. Are you happy with what you saw?
Yeah, we started off really well. We're all over him. We had majority of the possession, but that's our game. Yeah, we started off really well. Take the 3 points. I think the only, again, we were talking about it last night, but the only thing that concerns me is at the moment is the goalkeeper. There's so many mistakes that come from him. There was a moment yesterday where he went to go jump up and he didn't know whether to go for it or to leave it. And if you're a confident keeper, that just comes into your hands and away you go. Overall, 3 points. I think last season, if that was under Poch, I think we lose that game. That's just my opinion. I feel like the team is showing that we're becoming a team. That games that we still don't look that great, we're getting results, which is sometimes a part of football. Like, you're not always going to play 38 games fantastic every single game. But conceding is disappointing, especially the way we conceded. Again, a penalty. We seem to have a really bad habit of giving penalties away. But we move. We got 3 points and we continue.
Hey, listen, that's all you can ask for. I mean, Charlie, you were there as well. I mean, we spoke after the game. I think that there's good elements, but there's also some things that you could be concerned about. But would you take more positives from this game? Or, I mean, I'll be honest, I actually spoke to some fans like Kevin Carlton and Father. I was quite concerned with how negative some of the outlooks were after this game. As far as I'm concerned, we got 3 points after an international break. You got players like Fernandez and Caicedo who just come back from South America, and people are expecting them to be fresh as anything. And, yeah, we didn't play our best, but we didn't play that bad. We didn't play terrible. I don't understand how fans can look at this. And if you're looking at the full picture, which you have to, you can't just go, well, we're playing Leicester. When did we play Leicester? Okay, straight after the international break. What was our circumstances? What was theirs? I would have liked to have won this game by more. Absolutely. I think that, people saying 3-0, 4-0 would have been great to have a clean sheet. I think really we should have got a clean sheet. Benny, you're right. I mean, the penalty was, it should have never happened. But ultimately we got the job done. And I think it's like reminiscence of Sheffield, what Benny was saying earlier, what would have happened under Poch last year. I mean, we were there at Sheffield.
Don't remind me.
Oh, mate.
Was that when Buddy Hill come on and done that? When he made that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Was that when Poch made that substitution right at the end?
For no reason, really.
Yeah.
But
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I can't remember. It was a bad day anyway.
But, like, I mean,
and you were there.
Yeah.
What's your stance on it? Because I think that we just need to look at it and say, hang on a second, guys. What do you want here? We got the win. Why are people still complaining? That's my stance on it.
Mate, I hear it. There's so many games we've played, in the past where we've played a lot better than that and not got results. And ultimately, what are you expecting 12 games into a new manager? Are you expecting it to all be perfect? Yes, could we have scored more goals? Yeah, should we have scored more goals? Quite possibly. It's still a young team. We're still developing. And the one thing you'd say that's kind of we need to learn how to do is that when we're in the ascendancy, let's get 2-3 goals if we can. That first 15, 20 minutes in the first half, we were brilliant. We probably should have had an extra 1 or 2 goals to our name, and the game's done and dusted. I felt we lost a little bit of control in the game. We allowed Leicester to come back into it, particularly in them last sort of 15, 20 minutes of of the first half. They had a couple of decent opportunities, which you could argue against a better side, we might have been punished. But ultimately, I'm looking at it and you're thinking, right, okay, we're still a new team. We're still learning. We're still learning how to play under this manager. We're still learning what he's expecting from the players. We're learning his style of playing and his system and whatnot. We've come away from home. There's no easy games in the Premier League, as you can tell by how close the table is right now. What are people expecting? You know, the scoreline flatters Leicester. By the way, it was like a 93rd minute penalty. If you just look at the score, you think, "Oh, that might have been a close game." It wasn't a close game at all. So I don't know what people are wanting right now. You know, we're a work in progress. We're going to get a lot better. And why can't you just be happy and enjoy 3 points? Like, what's the issue?
I don't get it. I mean, Charlie. Sorry, not Charlie. Scott. You were there as well. You come to the game. It's not your first time coming to Leicester. I think you've been once before.
Yeah, once before.
When did you go?
Sorry, season.
Okay.
Last game of the season.
No, that was a terrible game. We drew that game, didn't we? I remember.
No, that's where we won, didn't we?
No, we drew that game. That was when Higuain. That was his last ever game for Chelsea.
Too many losses in.
I remember it. I remember it so well. My last ever fan came on 100% Chelsea.
Jesus.
Yeah,
while
those
ago,
were the
wasn't it?
days.
Jesus,
Those were
yeah.
the days.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I mean, what's your outlook on it?
No, I thought it was a good performance. I think the thing that Chelsea fans do, and like as a generalisation, is we either go one of two ways. It's either extremely negative or extremely positive.
We're not down the middle.
No,
we can't just look at
you'll
good
get
things
some.
and bad things and.
Yeah, but too many times I think with people and players, it's one way or the other. It's entirely negative or entirely positive. But I think it was a good performance, and like obviously I'd like to score more goals. I'd like to have had a bit more of an impact in that sense. But outside of that, I mean, we were defensively solid outside of giving away a penalty and Sanchez being a complete bozo. Our midfield was solid after coming back from South America, one of whom has been terrible basically all season, and he stepped up and was man of the match in that game. And our front line, I thought, was a bit of a different look in terms of like, obviously Cucurella was the left winger, wing back, whatever you want to call it. But Jackson scores, that's 7 on the season, halfway to what he was at last season.
Yeah.
We're 12 games in.
Second best striker in the league?
Oh, guaranteed. Like, he is for me. Like, I don't think that's up for debate, personally.
They said was it PR or an article or something? They said top 3, and I was thinking, well, we know Haaland. Who's the second one? Like,
You could probably make a case for Alexander Isak.
I'll say he's the only one
I think
right
you're
now.
like if you're basing it on like just pure finishing, then obviously he's not in the top 3 or whatever. But if you're looking at it as an overall package as a centre forward to what he brings,
I disagree, by the way, with the finishing. He's got a better conversion rate this season than Haaland.
no, sure. But what I mean is like none of us are going to sit here and say that Jackson's a better finisher than Haaland. He's not. You know, he isn't.
No, but I think in terms of finishing, you can make a case he's top 3 in the league.
he's improved a lot, man.
His finishing has improved, by the way, massively. But yeah, if you're looking at overall package and whatnot and what he brings and a complete all-round player, I think you struggle to find a better all-round striker in the Premier League in terms of everything.
That's why Nkunku's finding it hard to break into the team. Because when you look at Nkunku, and we all love him, I think when you've got someone like Jackson, Charlie was saying, he's an all-round player. What he brings when he's on, the movement, the touch, just little things. Sometimes you see Jackson just do like that little touch. People don't know, like some supporters and fans don't see those little things. But if you're actually looking at his overall game and you see those little things, the amount of times he's done that to Palmer and Palmer's then into space and Nkunku unfortunately hasn't brought that just yet. And I know he's been injured and we get that. But I agree with Charlie. I think overall what he brings to that front line is he opens that space up. And Nkunku doesn't do that.
So it's not even what he does on the ball, it's what he does off the ball.
Even off the ball.
But that goal yesterday, by the way,
that was Drogba-esque.
That all comes from his work off the ball.
Yeah, that's what
that doesn't happen if that off the ball work's not put in. And so, like, Maresca always goes on about how off the ball work is so important in the way that he plays. And that goal yesterday does not happen if Jackson doesn't work off the ball, chasing down Wout Faes, forcing him into a bit of an error. That doesn't happen if he doesn't do that. And as good a footballer as Nkunku is, that doesn't happen with him because he doesn't do that off the ball work. And it doesn't matter how good you are, if you're not working hard off the ball in a Maresca team, you won't play. And I think that's part of the reason why Madueke plays so much, right? Is because of his defensive work rate and what he does off the ball. You can argue that maybe, you know, he's not been. So you can't argue it's fact. His performances have dropped off over the past few weeks compared to what we saw in the first few weeks of the season. But he started every single Premier League game, bar the first one against Man City. There's a reason for that, and part of that reason is because of his defensive work rate and how hard he works off the ball, and that is really, really important for Maresca, which is why he starts.
No, I agree. And just going back to Jackson quickly, like he's on course. I said this yesterday. He's on course for 20+ goals, without pens, by the way. And I think that's an important distinction because I think we've seen it before. Like Isak last season got 21 goals, 2 of those were pens, I believe. We haven't had a striker go 20+ goals in a season with no pens since Costa.
That's a long time.
Do you know what's mad, right? Like,
and even sorry, Charlie, just before you go, even with that, we have only ever had, I think, 2 or 3 seasons in our Premier League history that I can remember, at least since Drogba's been here, where we had a striker go 20+ goals with no pens. Yeah. Drogba had 1 season, I think, and Costa had 1 season.
You know what's mad though is people expect it, and I'm like, hang on a second. How many goals did he get last season, Jackson? 14?
14 in the league.
Our highest scorer before that was Tammy Abraham. And I thought
Jorginho the season before, by the way, was our top scorer.
With 7.
With 7 goals. But like people
and all penalties.
But like even last season with Jackson, right? 14 league goals. Think how many chances he missed. That was a 20 goals. That was a 20 goals season last season. If his finishing was as good as it was at the moment this season, but isn't it weird? Like over the summer, all of us, pretty sure all of us would have said we needed a striker, and we were disappointed we didn't get a striker. I know hindsight's great in that, but when you know the narrative changes, like opinion can change as well. And actually, I'm thinking missing out on an Osimhen. Actually could have been. Actually, might have been a bit. Might have been a blessing for us.
It could. Yeah, and if we got Osimhen, it might have been a disaster.
I don't want us to go and get Osimhen or Gyökeres.
No.
Like, I don't want us spending 60 million on a striker. We don't need to.
Charlie, was it you?
Not right now, anyway.
I was watching one of your episodes a while back. Was it you that mentioned if a striker like Osimhen doesn't want to agree with wage terms and things like that, then?
It was like you want players that actually want to be at the football club. And I understand that like big players have got egos and stuff, and they think they're worth a certain amount of money, but. You want players that want to be at the football club. Look at people that have taken pay cuts to actually come and be here. Felix could have got low. I'm not a massive fan of Joao Felix, by the way, but he wanted to be at the football club. You know, he took a pay cut to come here. Jadon Sancho, his wages have gone right down from what he was earning at Man United.
Do we know what he's on?
Well, I don't know at the moment because his contract's not started. It's actually a loan technically still, so he's still on his United. I don't know how much we're contributing, but these are guys that want to be at the football club, and I'm thinking like if you want to be here. Then take a pay cut and show you want to be here. So for me, as much as people saying Osimhen wanted to come and we should have given him more money, players know what the deal is at Chelsea. You know, you either buy into the wage structure or you don't. And if you don't want to do that, then we're better off not having you. And I think right now we're in a situation where, for me, we're looking at it and I'm thinking, yeah, do you know what? It was a blessing that we didn't get Osimhen or we didn't get a big name striker in the summer because it's allowed Jackson to develop and continue to flourish. And if Jackson's going to be the main guy, then I can see maybe next summer, you can already see links to Liam Delap starting. And now, obviously, he's got a long way to go, but he's got 6 goals at Ipswich so far this season, 6 goals and an assist, which is pretty good going. He's 21 years of age. He fits the age profile. He's come through the Man City Academy. He knows Joe Shields. He knows Enzo Maresca. He's got that physical profile. He's strong. He's good in the air. And it's a profile we don't have in the squad. If he continues to develop and have a good season, and let's say he gets between 10 and 15 goals in the league, that is the most obvious Chelsea transfer imaginable, and it still allows Jackson to be the first choice.
If Ipswich get relegated, then we'll get a nice fee for him as well. That will lower the valuation.
I think that's a pretty good shout, to be honest, Charlie, because he, like you said, he fits everything that you said, and you're right. We don't actually have that sort of difference of a striker to what Jackson is. So Jackson's different to Delip, whereas vice versa. And sometimes you've got games where you need a Delip. You need someone to come on, or... Do
you mean Delap? Sorry.
Delip, whatever. Maybe that's just my
But that's the thing, though, because we don't have box presence. You know,
Yes.
that's the big thing. You know, you look at set pieces. You just look at set pieces, and then just generally like from open play balls into the box and that. We don't really have a box presence. Jackson, for all his qualities, aerially is probably one of his weakest parts of his game. And you know, for certain games, or you know, for the last 15, 20 minutes of a game, to have that option to switch it up and put on a like an aerially dominant striker, like a Delap, for example, is a good option. It's an option that we don't have, and it's an option that, you know, going forwards, whether it's a Delap or whether it's someone else, that's the profile of striker Chelsea needs. You look at someone like Omarodion, where that deal, for whatever reason, fell through last minute or whatever. Like someone like him would have been a good option to have, and we should have got him instead of Felix. Well, that's an irrelevant conversation now, but we would have been better off with that kind of profile in the squad rather than another number 10 type player. So for me, in the summer, yes, we'd all love a Gyökeres, of course, but if you're actually thinking about the balance of the team and the balance of the squad for what we need, like signing a Delap type player, this might sound mad, could actually be more beneficial in the bigger picture than a big name like a Gyökeres or an Osimhen, for example.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting we talk about the strikers, because everyone I speak to says something different, and they're all valid points. I think the main concern is, like we said, is the aerial ability, is box presence. Nicholas Jackson, that's probably the one area that I still look at and I think I couldn't compare him to a striker like Haaland until he improved that part of his game. If he had that to his game, well, my goodness, we wouldn't even be talking about a striker, because we'd be so happy with what we have.
Sorry, mate, is that we are, I'm not saying we're reliant on Nicholas Jackson, but we're a Jackson injury away from having a few problems, to be perfectly honest. Because you'd play Nkunku up there if Jackson injured, right? That's suddenly now a totally different way of playing.
Just like we were talking about, really.
And I'm just sort of, I'm not saying we'd suddenly be terrible, but it changes the outlook of how we play. And it would have to change the way that we attack slightly, because we've got a different player up there. So whilst Jackson's fit and it's all great, God forbid he gets an injury or whatever, we suddenly do find ourselves in a bit of a problem. We suddenly go from not really using Nkunku very much to suddenly being, shit, we're so reliant on Nkunku now to try and do something.
I think my biggest issue with that wouldn't necessarily be the way we play. It would be more chance creation for Nkunku. Because I think we still got that issue with Jackson. Like we saw yesterday, he had, 2 chances and scored 1. Like he's still not getting as many chances as he did last season. At least that's how it feels like watching the games. And I think if Nkunku did come in, I think that would go down even further. And I don't think we can really afford that, to have going from very few chances to almost no chances. Because I just don't think there would be that level of chemistry and understanding of like where to be or where he would be.
Yeah, I mean, it's ultimately, I think the wingers, in terms of chance creation, that doesn't get talked about enough. We'd always talk about GA, but a player like Mudryk, for example, who I think has improved massively, it's not because he's scoring goals, it's because he's creating a lot more than he needs to. And that's probably where Madueke as well, for me, that's where he gets a lot of his stick, is because he never, or 9 times out of 10, he doesn't look for the other player. He's
got no assists this season.
That's the problem that we have with Madueke.
But you've also got to be a little bit, just quickly before you go, mate, you've also got to be a little bit careful when you look at those assist stats, because you can look at like chances missed by players that probably should have scored. That's like Mudryk's numbers should probably be a bit higher in terms of assists, but look at the amount of times he cuts it back across the box, right? There's either no one there or the person in the box, messes it up. So whilst, Madueke's got no assists, people just see those numbers and think, no assists must be crap or whatever. But there is a little bit of context that people always miss out with those things.
Well, this is the thing as well, is like looking at the game yesterday in the stadium, you guys were there as well. And I'm sure you were probably saying it on the telly at times. When Madueke had the ball, I was hearing the same things every time. Please don't give it away, or please show us some end product. And then it would be a shot at the keeper or something that you just thought, there was an easy pass there and he passed it backwards. Why does he keep dribbling? Jacob said yesterday that Madueke was like Anthony. I thought, that's a bit harsh, Jacob. I thought, that's a little bit harsh.
Hey, back to school, mate.
But I mean, I don't buy into this whole Madueke has an attitude problem. No, I don't buy into it. I think that, especially when you look at when he went down the tunnel the other day, and I'll come to you in a second, Benny, the guy said it himself, He
Went for
needed
a piss,
he needed
mate.
a piss. I mean, are football players in the modern day
Yeah,
not allowed
not
to
allowed
empty
to
their
anyway,
bladder? As far as I'm concerned, if you needed a shit in the middle of the podcast, look, it's not ideal,
Just go for a shit. Yeah.
but
Well, you
it's
gotta
got to
get
be
up, you gotta
done.
go, you gotta
We
go.
don't want to have stains on the sofa, do we?
But,
No.
but that's why context is so important, right? Because like for that gets into the media, right? That he's always just stormed straight down the tunnel.
But people love it, Charlie. They love it, don't they? They run with it.
But that becomes a big story, right? And then you've got people commenting, "Oh, he's disrespectful to his teammates. Oh, the manager shouldn't be accepting that." And they're all running their mouths off before they've even heard from the guy's point of view that actually
Then
did it.
himself, yeah.
So
Yeah.
like this is how like if you don't come out and shut things down, these things can spread pretty quickly, and like an absolute nothing situation of a player going for a piss suddenly becomes, oh, he's stormed down a tunnel, he's got an attitude problem, he's let his teammates down, or it's disrespectful.
Yeah.
You've got to get on top of these things quickly.
This all comes back to that penalty thing from last season, and it's nonsense. Like it.
But Jackson was involved in that as well.
I know,
Yeah.
but like it does my head in because it all stems from that, and it's like he gets so much stick unnecessarily, like past the point of like, for example, like yesterday. I'm not going to say he was good. I thought he was decent, but so much of the criticism he gets goes past the point of, oh, this is criticism of how you're performing and just like about you as a person. It feels like at times.
It's personal.
Yeah, and it's just like you can tell that he gets frustrated. I think that was the problem yesterday, especially towards the end. It felt like he was dwelling on the ball too much. It felt like he was trying to do too much, but I felt it was because he's just getting frustrated himself.
Yeah.
And it's like that's gonna happen. He's a young kid. He's what, like 23. And yeah, I just think it goes overboard all the time with Madueke.
But that's part of the problem, isn't it? Like too many fans and too many people can't separate criticism of a performance between criticism of like a person and their character or whatever. Like they're two totally different things. Like people are commenting about someone. They've never even met him. They don't even know them. So just leave that.
The tweet
by
I
all
saw
means,
about him the other day
Say
was
what you
disgraceful.
wanna say.
by all means,
Yeah.
criticize someone's performance and speak about their performance, but don't start talking about people as like their character and how they are as a person. You don't even know these guys. You watch them for 90 minutes a week playing football in the stadium, and then people speak like they know him. Oh, he's a bad character. He's this, he's that. You've got no idea. So just shut up and just talk about his football rather than talking about his personality or his character, because it's just nonsense. And if there was legitimately
Point, really.
that issue, right? Do you not think the manager wouldn't be playing if he had a bad attitude and he was like that around the place? He wouldn't
100%,
play.
yeah,
It's just
yeah.
nonsense.
No, I agree. Yeah, it with Madueke, like he gets a lot of stick actually. To be fair, to him, and Carly said it earlier about his defensive work. Now, to win games and to win leagues, it's not just always about attacking either. So we've also got to respect that he works hard to defend as well. And we always look past that side of the game sometimes and go, oh, but he's, bad in the final third and he's not passing and he's not looking up and all these little things. But what is he doing then off the ball? And what is he doing for the team off the ball as well? Like, we don't overlook it as a whole. We just look at it as, oh, he's giving it away too much and things like that. So, and again, you go back to when we were under Mourinho and managers like that, and we were winning titles. Look how many players that we don't mention that used to defend, not attack, and defend and help the team and run and put that energy.
That's what Willian got so much plaudits for. Like his highest GNA in a season was the last season he had with us under Lampard, and he got 9. Was his highest ever.
His numbers were never that good.
He got I think he had a season where
Exactly.
he got 2 GNA across the season. 2.
But just quickly on that point, right? On Madueke, on that, right? You look at someone like Jack Grealish in the treble winning season, right? Grealish's numbers in that treble winning season, stats wise, GNA very low, not great. This guy started every single game over that second half of the season after the World Cup, all the finals, all the massive games, and that's not because of his attacking, by the way, because his numbers weren't that great. That's because of the defensive work rate and what he brought to the team. So this is what I mean. Like, people are so fixated with GNA, and yes, you want GNA from an attacker, but actually, in terms like overall work rate, like Grealish was integral to that treble-winning team, and it wasn't because he was producing numbers; it's because of his off-the-ball work and his defensive work.
I'll go one further than that. Can anyone tell me what the difference was between the João Felix performance and the Madueke performance yesterday?
he made a few challenges and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Didn't create anything. No G&A.
It's quite similar, yeah.
All
Yeah,
it
but
was
he made
was
two big-
pressing,
yeah.
challenges, and some tricks and flicks that looks nice on a futsal pitch. But when you're playing football, it's a bit different.
There wasn't much different. Look, Felix was good, by the way. It was quite good
I
yesterday,
think
by the way.
Felix had a better game than
Yeah,
Madueke.
but-
But it comes down to the challenging and
Yeah.
the pressing, and that
People
nonsense.
see that and they like that. You know,
And-
he's
and
running
then-
across the pitch. He's putting big tackles in. Right, he's winning the ball back. But actually, if you took that away and you looked at the two performances between Felix and Madueke, like on the ball and stuff, there wasn't really an awful lot of difference. But because they saw him working hard, that's like elevated Felix's performance like considerably above Madueke's because he put in some big tackles. Now, we're not discrediting him, but it's amazing how the narrative shifts when a player puts in a couple of big challenges compared to one that maybe doesn't make that many challenges in a game.
That's true. But I think that the problem that I have with Felix, for example, and I think Madueke is also capable of this at times, although he's improved. I think that Felix is very much one good game, one bad game, one good game, one bad game.
But that's not that for a lot of the players, isn't it?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. But that's what we almost want to get rid of as well. And I don't see that as much with Jackson. I mean, 12 games, seven goals. He continues the way he's going. He'll
7
probably
goals,
get
3 assists?
Got four.
No,
Four assists.
four assists.
Okay,
No, it's
so
four
so
now.
he's on-
He's
he's
got
on
one
track.
They didn't count it yesterday.
because he didn't get it was a save that then resulted in a
I saw
goal.
it went down as four. Maybe they
I
changed
did
it.
I think on FPL it went down as an assist,
Oh,
but it didn't.
That's all that
It
counts.
went on
That's
FPL. I
That's
think.
fine then. Yeah. So maybe not a proper assist then.
But yeah, I mean, for me, like Nicholas Jackson's going to finish the season with 22 goals if he keeps going the way he's going. But I do think that Madueke, I don't know. I think he just needs a bit of a break, and not a break in terms of punishment. But I think Guardiola does it all the time, and Jurgen Klopp used to do it when he brought players in. He would restrict game time, but he'd give you a little sniff, and then something would, I don't know if it's maybe they did extra training or they worked tactically, whatever it is, and they come into the squad. And I can't think of many players under Klopp, for example, that came in and then they were shocking, right? Or players that Guardiola dropped and they didn't respond. And I think that's what Maresca's probably going to do. I think he's going to drop Madueke for a couple of games.
Well, there'll be rotation,
Yeah,
won't there?
there will be.
Absolutely.
Well,
and
I
there
mean,
needs to
I
be.
don't. I mean, look, he'll probably start against Villa on Sunday. He won't play in the Conference League on Thursday. But then after Villa on Sunday, it's Southampton away on the Wednesday night. Then it's Spurs away the following Sunday. So I think in
those two
I
periods.
don't think he'll start against Southampton, for example. But I think he probably will start against Villa.
Yeah. I mean, one player that we were talking about on the way here, Benny, Enzo Fernandez, good old Matt, who I did invite on the podcast, guys, rejected us.
No, mate, he's doing dodgy deals in his Del Boy outfit.
The Mafia hitman?
I said, come on, Matty, join us. Enzo Fernandez as well. I mean,
Mate,
what's not to love?
He's either doing dodgy deals or he's on the Peaky Blinders set.
He's on the Peaky Blinders set. There
He
you
could
go.
get it, actually.
Yeah.
But looking like that
He
again.
could get in, yeah.
Got
Hey,
him here. He looks snazzy.
if you don't know what we're talking about, watch the fan
Mate, that's
cam
the most
yesterday.
well dressed I've ever seen him.
Oh, mate.
He
He
had.
was-
He was looking good.
He was
Let's just say
proper.
he had plans after the
I
game.
had plans.
Let's just
Yeah,
say
we'll leave it
that.
at that. Yeah,
I got to admit, he looked proper snazzy.
he did. Yeah.
So, fair play.
But listen, that's his favourite, Enzo Fernandez. Loves Enzo. And to be fair, like, half of the time I do think, and I think everyone's covered on this train, it's like, Matt, I like Enzo as well, but he's not been that great this season, let's be honest. But I think Enzo was really good yesterday. I like the fact that he was playing further on the right-hand side instead of on the left. I think that not only does he have more time because he's able to pass first time, he's on his strong side, but he's able to whip in a few crosses. I thought he was getting stuck in defensively as well. I was really happy with him. I mean, Benny, what did you take from his performance?
I think it was but probably the best performance I've seen him have in a quite a long time. He looked confident. He was getting in the areas. I think you're right. Him playing where he was playing yesterday suited him. He is a hard player to predict because he has these moments of magic, and you go, wow. And then he just has these real downfalls, and you go, come on. Like, he gave the ball away and things like that. But I think he will find himself again. And him having competition with Lavia now, when Lavia if he stays fit, let's hope he does. I think if he has that urge to become good and be that player that we want him to be, him having competition, if he's got the motivation, he will come good. I think the only thing is hard to predict as well is we did play, and you might see it a lot, when we play the big teams, you will probably find that Caicedo and Lavia will start over Enzo and Caicedo.
Why do you think that is?
I just think defensively, Lavia is a lot more better. He covers more ground. And I just think in that aspect, you can see we don't leave a bigger, like a hole. But when Enzo plays, you do see those little holes. I think when you play a team like Leicester, it kind of suits Fernandes. Maybe because they're not so much of an attacking team.
They don't press as much.
I think you find with Fernandes, when a team presses too much, I think he struggles. But I wouldn't say low block team, no disrespect to Leicester or, any of those sort of teams, but they do suit Enzo. And then you look at the Conference League. He played really good in the Conference League. Like it's those games I feel like he does thrive in, and then it's the high pressure games where teams press and attack, and that's where he struggles. But fair play to him. He's not had it easy as of late, and he came in yesterday and he performed. So, and that's all you want. That's all you ask for from a player. When you get the chance, perform. He did. You can't say nothing about yesterday's performance. I think
happy days.
Happy days.
There you go.
Yeah.
He was good.
No,
Yeah.
I agree with Benny. I think as well in terms of, for me, it just comes down to with Fernandes the opposition you're going to face. You look at the best 3 performances he's had this season. For me, it was today against Leicester, or yesterday against Leicester.
Wolves second half.
I wouldn't even say Wolves. I'd say West Ham. But again,
Panathinaikos?
no, and I'd say Brighton. For me, those were the 3 best performances he's had this season.
Panathinaikos for me.
Hey, don't
Maybe
forget the
Pan-
3 assists against Noah.
Yeah, massive. But do you know, when people say that he's not been good all season, right? Is that because they hold him to a much higher standard than other players because of how much he costs? Because I watch him, right, this season. Has he been amazing this season? No. But has he been as bad as what people say? No, he hasn't. But I think that people hold him to a much higher standard, and maybe an unrealistic standard because of the money that was paid for him. If Enzo Fernandes cost 50 million quid, right,
Yeah.
and was playing like he had been playing, no one's talking about expecting more or wanting more. So I know you don't set the price tag as a player. I don't think he's been that bad, right? But people have got such high expectations because of the money paid that unless it's like a performance like yesterday, pretty much every week, he's always going to be criticised by certain people, and I just don't think that's fair. You watch games that Chelsea have played this season. How many times can you really sit there and say, "Oh, that was because Enzo Fernandes was crap"? You don't like him. He is not costing Chelsea points, and he's not making Chelsea play badly. Yet when you hear some people speak about him, it's like he's the sole reason why we've played badly or why we've lost points. That for me just is not running and is not fair.
Do you not
I
think
don't agree with Charlie, to be fair. Yeah,
disagree a bit in the sense of I think if he's not, I think there have been games this season, and I look at the Newcastle game in the Cup as a prime example. If he's not offering anything on the ball, he's a complete liability
but he
in our
was
game.
in there in the midfield with Vega.
Oh no, I agree, but I think it's quite telling when you're in a midfield with Vega and you are the worst midfielder of the two. Granted, it was close; they were both bad, he wasn't.
I agree, he was bad, but everyone was terrible in that game.
Fair. But I think there've been other games where he for me, as I said, if he's not doing anything on the ball, he is a complete liability because I don't think he really offers, outside of yesterday where he was brilliant defensively, he generally doesn't offer a lot defensively.
I agree. His off the ball work is something that does need an improvement, and obviously when it's right, when you play Lavia and Caicedo, more ground gets covered in the midfield and we are defensively better. But we spoke about this so many times. When you play Lavia and Caicedo, you might get better defensive stability and a more balanced team, but you're sacrificing creativity.
Yeah.
You noticed yesterday, like the extra creativity we had in the team when Enzo Fernandes plays, because Lavia, for as good as Lavia is and all the qualities that he's got, he does not possess that range of passing that Enzo has. Neither does Caicedo. I know Caicedo's work in the attacking third is slightly underrated and he has got some quality, but no one's got the passing range of Enzo Fernandes. So it's about finding that balance, and I think it's very much going to be like a horses for courses thing where.
Horses for
Mate.
courses.
You know, you're bringing out the lingo, innit?
What is that?
Mate? It's in terms.
It's a.
That's like when Matt says "baby llama, no drama."
No,
I have heard that before.
no, mate.
I've heard that saying
mate.
before.
No, mate, horses for courses is like a horse racing thing, innit? Because like certain horses run better on certain grounds, so that's where it comes from. So I'm thinking, like, for me, it's not a case of should it be Lavia or Fernandez. It's going to be very much, in my opinion,
Game
it's
by
going to be
game.
on a game-by-game basis.
That's what I thought.
And that
I
game
agree.
yesterday was perfect for Enzo Fernandez. Now, we might go to Aston Villa next week, and you would argue off the back of that he should start. But it wouldn't be a complete surprise to see him on the bench and see Lavia start.
So I wouldn't start him against Villa, but I would start him against Southampton.
Would you start him on Thursday?
Yes.
Would you start him on third?
Yes.
Well, if you're going to drop him
against
for
Heidenheim,
the
I
Villa
would.
game.
I don't know. Would he even be in the squad on the Thursday? Maybe he might be. I don't know.
I would start him against Heidenheim, as I said, because I wouldn't start him against Villa. But like I would start him against Southampton, and I would start him against Tottenham, but I wouldn't start him away at Everton. And I think that Charlie's right. You've got to judge it. I think if you're playing a team that's got a physical midfield that's going to get in your face, I wouldn't start him. But if you've got a team that's quite open, will give you time on the ball, then I think you start Enzo because of what he can do creatively.
It's almost like a situation when we had your Conte Fabregas type thing where Fabregas was amazing in some games, in most games actually, but there were games where it didn't work. You can't have that sort of playing style. It's not going to work against some teams, and that goes back to my thing where games like Leicester and possibly like if we play Brentford, I think Enzo that's where you play Enzo, those sort of games. But I think when you're coming up, like Charlie said, I can see Lavia starting against Aston Villa. That I can see that already, and I think that would just be particularly because of the opponent as well. I think it's just going to be one of those things.
I think it's good to have the options though.
It is, yeah.
I'm happy either way. If Enzo starts, no problem. If Lavia starts, no problem. Like it's great to have these options and these selection issues. You know, it's really good to have two quality players in good form, and you're having a conversation about which one should start. That's what you want. You don't want to be looking at your team and thinking, because you want pressure, you want competition for places. That's what all the top teams have, competition for places. And that's what we've got, in the midfield.
Is it competition, Charlie, though, or is it just basically are we saying in a nice way, Enzo Fernandez, like, you're all right against Leicester, I'm happy to play you in the Conference League, but as soon as we play against a decent team,
I think it's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. I think they're both in form, at least like after this game. But I think some of it does come down to like you haven't performed in certain games when we have like faced opposition that are going to be a bit more in your face. So like it just, as Charlie said, it's just a case of like who we're playing on that day.
But he always talks about you always hear Maresca talk about when he's asked about playing certain players together, he always talks about balance, right? And so it's not for me. He's never spoken. It's never a quality issue. It's the balance of the team. So Enzo Fernandez is not playing because he's not good enough. It's because he thinks the balance of the team for playing certain opposition is going to be better with a Lavia in there, for example, or someone else. You know, Felix and Palmer played yesterday. Maybe he thought that was better for the balance of the attack than playing in Nkunku. But that might not always be the case. Against other opposition, it might be a better balance to have Nkunku in there. And like it is with Lavia and Enzo, this is not quality issue. This is basically what gives the team the best balance. It's not about, player A is better than player B. It's the balance for that level of opposition.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just on the Nkunku thing, we saw that when he came on for Felix. Like, most of us, I think, in that situation probably expected him to come on for Jackson. But Maresca's already talked about in press conferences, you can't play Palmer, Felix and Nkunku at the same time because of what you lose off the ball. Because none of them are defensively as good as your Madueke's, Mudrik's, even Jackson, for example. So you can't play all three of them at the same time. So one of them has to be sacrificed. At least one has to be sacrificed normally.
But it's a good point. Yeah, it's a very valid point. I think, overall, I think Carly's points were good. Your points are great as well. I think overall, I think you just got to look at the balance and what team you're playing, and it's not who's better, who's not, and because all our players can come in and do a job, but again, it's also game by game as well. Like it's not a bad thing to have to have that option to go, actually, Enzo, today, this suits you today. This is your day to shine. You go out there and you do what.
But I think like you've listened to like former players speak, and I think like a couple of like ex-United players speaking about Fergie, like, and he'd say to them, I can't remember who said it. It might have been to Gary Neville, he said it to, or whatever. He'd be like, I'm not going to play you in these 2 games.
Oh, Rio Ferdinand said it. Yes.
Yeah. I'm not going to play you in this game or this game, but I'm playing you in this game, and I want you to be ready. So like it's that sort of thing where it's just certain personnel for certain games. I don't subscribe to this. I know it looks like there's an A and a B team, and certainly in the earlier rounds of the cup competitions, that there is. But as you get into the latter phases, you'll see less of that A and B team. You're basically looking at to win. You need 15 or 16 players that are all going to contribute, and that's the biggest thing. And that's the sign. The best sign of a well coached team is that when you switch the pieces around, the performance level is still the same, or whatever player's playing in said position is carrying out that role. And I think we are seeing that. So we are heading in the right direction for sure. It's great to have the options, and all you can do when you play is make the most of the opportunities you're given and give the manager a decision to make. And that's what these players are doing. They're coming in and they're playing well. Badia Shil, another one yesterday, coming in and played very well. Gives the manager something else to think about. That's all you can do, and that's all you want is when players come in, perform, give the manager a decision to make.
Absolutely, and good timing as well, Charlie. I was going to move on to the defence. We had Fofana as a right back. We had
sensational,
Cucurella,
by the way,
much further up the pitch on the left. Badia Shil and Colwell in the middle. The system in itself was different, not just in that sense because you had Cucurella further up. You didn't have Fofana doing what Gusto would have been asked to do, and obviously Badia Shil coming in. Never really starts in the Premier League. I think his last Premier League.
That's his first start.
Yeah.
But the only other time he's played in the league this season was when he come on as a sub against Liverpool. So
we played the same. We did the same thing against Liverpool, I think, didn't we?
Well, we had no Fofana did against Liverpool. He was banned, but.
But we had the same 2 centre backs. We had Colwell as the right centre back when we win a 4. Moved to central centre back, and we had Badia Shil as the left centre back.
And Badia Shil came on and did a fantastic job, and then he played in the cup against Newcastle.
Horrifically bad.
No, thank you. Back on the bench.
Yeah.
But no, I was really impressed with our defensive setup. I think the whole system, it's like we were saying with Fernandes, I think it just catered to the players that we had. I don't know what it is. Maybe having Fofana ever so slightly deeper. It's not a back 3, but it looked like that at times, because Fofana's not pushing up as much. He's not looking to whip those crosses in. And maybe Badia Shil has a little bit of extra support. I don't really know. We've got Caicedo in there. The system benefited the midfield. We looked good in that sense, and we had our wingers sort of closing in a little bit more, not so much touchline like what we've seen in the past. So I'll start with you, Scott. When you see the setup, and we start defensively, we will get to the goalkeeper later on. I know there's plenty to say about that. We got players like Gusto and Reece James, who, in my opinion, I think we actually have, when they are at their best, we have the best right backs in the league in terms of first choice and second choice.
Pairing, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I think we saw that last season with Gusto. If you play him as a classic right back, he's just solid.
He is,
But the injury problems that we've had to adapt things, and we have. And it worked yesterday, but we still struggled towards the end of the game. But I can't take many negatives from that, from a defensive point of view.
No, I agree. And I think it's a weird space to be in because you want to be really happy and praise, obviously, because they did a good job. But it's also, we played a Leicester side with their, 4th and 5th choice wingers. They offered nothing going forward. So they weren't necessarily really tested that much, but at the same time, they did their job. Like, you can only replay who's in front of you, and they did really well. And I think I agree with you with, it suiting certain players. I think for me, it's only been 2.5 games he's played there, but for me going forward, this should be the setup in terms of Fofana as the right back, right centre back.
You think that's something we should do more often?
Well, Gusto has been terrible this season. He has been arguably our worst outfield player. I'll say this much.
Look at that scowl.
I think he's had one good performance the whole season.
You're clenching your fist.
I think he's been arguably our worst performer outfield. Notwithstanding the person in goal, outfield player, I would argue. His name. Bro, I don't want to address that. Eswatini international. He's not Spanish. I would say outfield player. Like, he's been arguably our worst player. And it's whatever's happening, it's not working.
Okay.
So, Disasi isn't the answer at right back. Achimpong is never playing until he signs a contract. So, you've then got to look for other options. And Fofana, in the 2.5 games he's played there, has been very good.
I thought it was poor against West Ham. He did struggle against West Ham away when he played at right back.
I thought he was good. I didn't think he struggled that much.
He come off about 55 minutes.
I didn't
I think
think
he had an injury.
I think it was injury. I didn't think he was that bad. I thought he handled them quite well, considering he had Kudus for a bit, and then he had
Somerville as well, I think.
Somerville as well. I thought he handled them quite well.
It's a good option. It's an all right option to have, and it's one against when you're playing against the Leicester City. You can get away with that, but I don't know if we had to do it against an Arsenal or a Liverpool, for example.
I'd still fancy him against Arsenal.
Then it becomes a bit more problematic. Is it terrible? No, it's not terrible, but it's not an option that you want to be.
Ideal.
It's not an option you want to be going with on a regular basis, but it's certainly much better than playing Disasi there.
I think it's better than playing Gusto there right now with the form he's in. Until Gusto improves and shows he can do that role, I don't think that he can.
I'd always rather have a natural right back.
Yeah,
player.
Fair. But I think
it's a hard
it
one
just
with-
depends on what you can do. Because if we're going to do this, because I would continue with the Cucurella at left wing back or whatever he was like yesterday as well. I think that worked. I think just on him quickly, he is the best left back in the league currently.
He's one of the first.
I would say Robertson is probably
not this season.
Not right now.
Yeah,
No,
that's
but
why
I
I say
just
no.
I mean as a generalizer, like as a generalization.
But it's the same way I'd say Caicedo's not on talent the best midfielder in the league. This season he has been. On form, he's been the best midfielder.
Okay, I'm with you.
Cucurella has been on form the best left back in the league. Outside of maybe Hall is the only other one that's in contention. There's no one else that's close.
Fair.
But
That's fair.
he right now is one of the. I think there's three.
First name on the team sheet.
There's 3 names on the team sheet right now that just go on straight away. Him, Palmer. Well, it's probably 4 actually. Him, Palmer, Caicedo, Jackson.
Robert Sanchez.
And that wastes space.
Yeah, but it just goes to show, right? Like you should. This is why I'm always hesitant to be too quick to judge players, because this is a player, right, that in his first season was booed by the Chelsea fans. His second season, which was under Poch, that was Poch, right?
Yep.
Mixed until the final 6 games. Then he did quite well. He played it right back for a couple of times,
then
he got injured. But it was like it was an average to good season, right? And plenty of people in that summer, the summer before, would have been happy to sell him to get rid of him to Man United, right? The transformation that he's had over the last 6 games of the season under Poch, and then over the summer with Spain, and then into this season, goes to show that you should never be too hasty to write players off. This is the start of his 3rd season now, right? And so when people look at players like Mudryk and whatnot, and I say like this is his this is the start of his 2nd full season, right? Maybe it's almost as if players might need a bit of time to actually find their feet and do something, you know? How many people were booing Cucurella? How many people were like chastising him? Oh, he's shit, he's this, he's that, get rid of him. Everyone loves him now, mate. So it just goes to show that football's so fickle. Like, players do need time, and players take different amounts of time to adapt. So when you see a player come in and they're maybe not that good for a season or a season and a half, it doesn't mean it's never going to happen. It just means that it might take a little bit longer, and Cucurella is a prime example of that.
Yeah, I mean, Benny, do you like the defensive setup we had? Would you continue that into the Aston Villa game?
As in from what we played yesterday?
Yeah, so Cucurella, Fofana.
No, I wouldn't continue it.
Okay.
I think yesterday it worked. For what we had, it worked. I think when you got a fit right back, say Gusto or something, he would come in for me. I'd then put back Fofana back where he plays, centre back, and your Colwell, and obviously left back Cucurella. I think it worked yesterday. Does it work when you go and play Villa? Who knows? It could. I'm not saying it wouldn't, but it's hard to base it off one game, or maybe 2 games that we've maybe have done it in the past. It's very hard to base it off yesterday's game, because yes, it worked yesterday, but
Leicester's only shot on target was the penalty at the end.
And that's the other
Rip.
that's the other thing as well. How do you rate that defense from, like, do you?
They weren't tested.
Yeah, like
we played as a unit.
You know what's funny though? Steve Cooper came out after and blamed it on the ref.
Oh,
I was like,
yeah.
how can you blame that on the referee?
It's tough, isn't it? Like, I thought defensively we were good, right? But then then you could look at it. You could look at it in two ways. How much of that was because Leicester didn't really offer anything, but then the defending that we did have to do, we defended reasonably well. But from a defensive standpoint, can't remember a single save that Sanchez had to make, and can't remember, a single time defensively where you were a bit worried. Okay, maybe a couple of chances in the first half. One shot that went just wide, and then obviously Ndidi should have sorted himself out and done a lot better. But like, I was never once worried really about Leicester on the ball and what threat they were going to pose. So look, defended well, but there's going to be tougher tests than that. And I think it's very obvious that the first choice back four at this point in time, whether people agree or disagree, in Maresca's mind, the first choice back four right now is Gusto, Fofana, Colwell, and Cucurella. That's the first choice back four.
Yeah. And I was just saying, like, that would be my defence if I'm Maresca, like that. Again, sometimes you've always got to make tweaks. Yesterday's tweak worked, but yeah, if I've got those players available, that's my defence. Obviously, we'd love Reece James over Gusto, but unfortunately, we're back.
The only reason Badiashile played yesterday was because Gusto was ill in the night.
I'll ask you this, boys. I'll ask you this. Just one word answer. We'll start off with a one word answer. Keep or sell Reece James. I'll start with you, Scott. Keep.
Can I be in the middle?
We sell half of him.
That's like Omeridion, isn't it? You get 50% of the player or something.
They've got like 50% of the rights.
All right, you know what? I would say keep.
Okay.
At this stage, yeah.
You keep him.
Yeah.
I don't think you can sell him. I think it's impossible to sell him. On his wages,
there are.
And I'm going with my heart because I love him.
Yeah, there are only a handful of teams that could afford him if they wanted him, but I would say keep now, unless depending on the results of the scan that's happening. So if that comes back serious, sell.
I'll be honest. This guy, he won't play again this year.
If that is the case, I'd sell him. By the way,
I wouldn't sell him because I don't think this will continue. Well, I say don't think it'll continue. Like it's a problem, right?
Yeah.
When you've got a player that talented, and when he's been at the football club since 6 or 8 years of age, he's come through the ranks and whatnot, you will back him until it's physically impossible not to back him. And like, as fans, it's frustrating, right? But a lot of people speak as if like he's choosing to get injured, and it's like it's his fault. Like, if think about our levels of frustration, right? This just keeps happening. Think how he's feeling, that he's got to deal with another setback yet again. And that's what too many people don't realise, right? Is they don't realise that he's a human being at the end of the day. Think how devastating that is, right? You've just come back from an injury. He played back-to-back 90 minutes against Newcastle and Man United earlier this month, and he suffered another setback, right? That, from a mental standpoint, is so difficult. So at this time, what you really need, right, is everyone around you to rally round and support you. And you've got a lot of fans, right, who are just want to tear him down. Is it frustrating? Yes, of course it is. But like,
do you think that they say that from a place of, I hate Reece? Because I think that they're saying, I think it's more of a logical standpoint.
One thing I would say, quickly, is that I think you could make a fair point to say that he probably shouldn't have been made captain, because you can't have a captain that is never available.
Spot on.
So if he gets himself back fit and playing regularly, I've got fine, no problem. But I think it was a mistake to make him captain. I think looking back at it, Thiago Silva should have been a captain last season. Let's be fair, Reece barely captained the team last season anyway. But do you get my point though? He shouldn't have been captain. I think that's a fairer point and a fairer conversation to have, is that he probably shouldn't have been made captain, because as a captain, you want someone who is going to be available 9 times out of 10 to lead the team on the pitch, and he simply isn't. So until he gets to a point where that is going to happen, I do believe that someone else should be captain. I mean, someone else is basically captain anyway, but in terms of official capacity, I think maybe you look back at it now and you could make a fair point to say that, actually, do you know what? It was probably the wrong decision to make him captain, given the fact that he can't stay fit at the moment.
No, that's fair. I mean, my stance on it is there's two sides. There's the emotional and the logical standpoint. If you're looking at it from an emotional standpoint, you don't sell him, because you love Chelsea. He's proper Chelsea. He's been at the club, and he's done a lot for the club while he's been here. He's reached world-class status. He's been that good for us.
Yeah.
But then you've got the logical standpoint, which is 250 grand a week, never available. And actually, we speak about captain as well. He doesn't strike me as a captain. Enzo Maresca has actually called him out publicly.
I think you can
No, that's
lead
fine.
in
You can be a
different
leader.
ways.
You can be a
But
leader.
I agree that outwardly he doesn't come across as a leader type.
But this is
sure.
my point. For a player who is injured, and he's not a vocal player, right? So let's look at Harry Kane. Great example. Mourinho talked about it when he was at Spurs. He's a silent leader. But guess what? He's always available. So he leads by example with what he does on the pitch, how he trains, and what his teammates see him do.
Yeah.
What do Reece James's teammates see him do?
I mean, we don't
sit on the bench.
Yeah, but I mean,
in the physio.
we don't know what he does
Well,
at the training ground.
no,
or
but
whatever,
let's be honest. He's
yeah.
not going to be running. He's not going to be doing any laps, is he?
No,
I'm not.
But people that, but just quickly, right? People that say sell him, right? Let's think about this from a logical standpoint, right? What club is going to pay a transfer fee that Chelsea would deem acceptable, and pay Reece James's wages given his injury record, right? Who people that say sell him? That's a very difficult sell in this set of circumstances. Like there is not. And it pains me to say this because there should be a huge market for Reece James. But the reality is, right now, in his current situation, outside of maybe Saudi Arabia, right?
Who's going to take him?
There is zero. I would say there is almost zero market for Reece James in his current situation. So it's not an easy sell if you actually wanted to sell him. It simply isn't.
What I will say, and maybe, and again because I love Reece James as well. I think the only good thing, no, there is no good thing, but the one thing that we can take a positive out of what is going on with Reece James at the moment is, in reality, we haven't had him for a long time now, and we've been okay without him. We would be a lot better if he was fit and ready to go, but we've been okay without him.
Okay, yeah.
So let's just give him some more time and let's help him as a club, as fans. Let's try and just help him get through the bad period because we haven't had him anyway. So there is no benefit, vice versa. Sell him, don't sell him, whatever. Might be a club's benefit to do that. But as a team, you're probably not going to win or lose by doing it. So you may as well keep him. Let him try and get back to what he was. Whether it comes to that point or not.
He's not going to get there, Ben.
I was going to say the issue.
But
there's a few issues with this. Number one is he had the surgery. That was the biggest thing for Reece
But
before everything.
what we don't know, sorry mate, is is it the same hamstring as he had the surgery on?
Yeah, we don't
if it's
know
the
that.
same one,
Don't tell me he's got another hamstring problem.
No,
Don't tell
because
me
right, that's the details that we don't know.
That's even better.
That's even worse,
If
John.
it's the same hamstring he's had the surgery on, that's a massive problem, right?
Yes,
if it's the other one, it's still a problem, but it's not as big of an issue because you can look at it and think, right, okay, I'll go and have the surgery.
Just have another surgery.
Well,
Surgery on both hamstrings.
but you can look at it and think
Yes,
maybe you can have
that's
the
true.
surgery on that one. If it's the same, if this turns out and it's like he doesn't play again this year, or he's set for several months on the sideline, and we find out it's the same one that he's had the surgery on, that is a far bigger problem than if it's the other one. So that I just want to quickly make that point.
I also
Facing
think
then.
as well that other issue is if this was last season, I'd have more understanding because the manager, the way the training went, the injuries, etc. He's playing under a manager that is very averse to overly playing players, especially injury. We saw yesterday, Pedro Neto came back from having a knock or got kicked in an international match.
play.
Wasn't on the bench. Wasn't in the
Very
squad.
good at that, Maresca. I will put my hands down
and he's
for.
playing in a system that isn't physically demanding, very physically demanding. And that's for me, like, if he, worst case scenario, he doesn't play a game this season, he has to be sold. You can't have your highest earner play 4 games a season. That's unacceptable, I'm sorry. You'd either have to halve his wages, which I don't think he'd do, or move him on.
100%.
Like, the thing is, though, like we talk about the fundamental thing is like why we need to sort of ascertain as to why this keeps happening.
Yeah.
Because
Is it on him? Is he not looking after himself as well? Like,
because you look at it, right, and this is a guy people have criticised him in the past of his carrying too much muscle mass. He come back from like this period out just that he's just had, and when he come back, he looks a lot slimmer. And then you're looking at it, and he's not played. Maresca's not played him in that inverted role, finding himself in the number 10 position to protect himself. So at this point, you're sort of thinking, well, what is it he's doing? Now, if he had a bad lifestyle or he wasn't looking after himself, that would become obvious very quickly because the club would pick up on that and it would be something that would need to be dealt with. So I'm looking at it and what is it? Is he maybe some players are just injury prone, and for whatever reason, it's the makeup of their bodies or whatever it is. I don't know why, but I'd be very surprised, right, if these injuries were caused by like a poor lifestyle or him not looking after himself. Because I think he's, you know, someone, when people speak about him, he's someone that's very, very dedicated. He's someone that, you know, has got a unbelievable mentality. So for me, it doesn't. This is obviously, this is some sort of maybe physiological issue in terms of just the makeup of his body or whatever it is. Because I wonder how these injuries are being caused. Like, are they being caused in the same way as all the other ones? This is his 20th injury I saw the other day since 2000 and I think since the 2019-20 season. So yeah, you know, we need to get to the bottom of why this keeps happening. But the most important thing, very briefly, is it would be great to know, is it the same hamstring he had surgery on? Because that, if it is, that's a far bigger problem than the other one.
There you go. But I mean, yeah, Reece James, we all hope he gets better. But I do think
I'll never give up on him.
I can't say the same thing, but I hope that he does recover. As I said, we're looking at it from maybe an emotional standpoint as fans. The club are certainly not going to be looking at it that way. They are going to be looking at it from a financial standpoint. And for what we're paying, what are we getting? Unless he's selling lots of shirts, which I don't know if he will be doing if he's always injured. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments. The commercial side might come into it. I think it would be very unlikely that the club will be interested in holding on to a player on such a high wage who's constantly injured. But as you said, Charlie, it's going to be difficult to offload him at the price that we're going to be looking for. But listen, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for coming on, guys.
Thanks, guys. Good day.
Thanks, mate.
Good day.
This is going to become a new theme. The day after every game, we're going to be doing these reviews. So if you enjoy it, smash the like button, subscribe. And also, if I haven't already mentioned, download Omelie. There you go, Benny. Yeah. So that where you can chat with other football fans. It's literally for football fans. There's a link in the description. It's totally free. I'm going to be doing a show on there later, going through the game. Come and join us, and we will see you very soon. All the best, guys, and up the Chelsea.
Up the Chelsea.